This is Fraud to Fearless.
Friends, you are made for more purpose, more confidence, more impact. Because when you live fearless, you inspire others to do the same.
Let's go!
Let's freaking go.
Let's freaking go.
So excited to be with you. Brooke, I have a surprise for you. This is off the cuff, unplanned. Why don't we do the welcome today solamente en español? ¿Está bien?
Solamente en español. ¿Sabes español?
Sí.
No, en serio.
Sí. Bienvenidos, hombres y mujeres, a la podcast Fraud to Fearless. Brooke, ¿cómo estás?
En serio.
Sí.
What is this? This is off the cuff.
This is off the cuff.
Muy bien.
Muy bien. All right. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're really excited. We're going to be talking about meditation. I think we do a lot of focus, and there's a lot out there about physical strength. And Brooke, I really don't think there's a lot about mental strength. And when you think about being an entrepreneur, working in corporate America, Q4 is crazy. So whether you have your own business or you work for a corporate America company, Q4, right? You're trying to hit your numbers. You're trying to finish the year strong. In a lot of cases, Brooke, like in some of our businesses at Honeywell, Q4 is the biggest month, right? Because businesses, right? If the way our budget works is for a lot of our customers, the way our budget works is if you don't use last year's budget in the year, you lose it the next year. And so Q4 is a whole bunch of salespeople talking to customers, understanding what they need. And Q4 is generally one of the busiest quarters that we have. And for some reason in the US, we decided to stack all of the most important holidays in a 30, 40-day period, Brooke. So like just me, my wife and I celebrate our anniversary in November. We have Thanksgiving, my sister's birthday. December is my wife's birthday and my mom's birthday. November's your birthday. Then we have Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, a whole bunch of big sporting events. And that's on top of work and all of that. And my sister's turning 30 this year, and so we're taking our 7-month-old to her first international trip to St. Lucia literally next week. So homegirl is 7 months old and has her passport. And on top of all of that, the government just barely reopened. So what's already generally the busiest travel month out of the year has been crazy chaotic because controllers aren't showing up. They're not getting paid. And so for all of you that are going to be traveling over the next 30 days, safe travels. Hope everything goes well and is on time. But there is a lot of stress that we are all going to be experiencing through this time period. It's probably a good idea that we spend some time strengthening our mental health.
Yeah, Hayden, this is a lot. And you know, when this episode goes live, we'll probably be right in the middle of December, maybe a little bit into January, who knows. But this is a lot. This is a lot. And it's funny because we call it a holiday, right? And it's great. Like we celebrate, but there's all these expectations around all the things that need to get done. It's such a rushing feeling. I gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do this, gotta do that. That we get through the end of that and we need another vacation to support the vacation, quote unquote, that we just went through, you know? It's true. I'm feeling that right now. We just need some peace. And even like you may be in a moment or a season where you're like, I have to get all this stuff done and I want to crawl up into the fetal position and lay in my bed for the next 24 hours. And maybe you can't, but we hope that this episode and the next ones to follow can just bring you some peace. Like we see you, we're here.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition. So what Brooke and I want to start doing more is at the beginning of the episode. Why listen to this? Why are Brooke and I recording this? So for this episode, we want to start to talk about meditation and how we strengthen mental health and some of the other practices that we do. Hint, hint, my wife and I bought a sauna, so I'm going to be talking about that. But I really think, Brooke, it's really important to find ways to work on this yourself. We talk a lot about reflection. We talk a lot about self-improvement and development, brand, goals, being physically active, taking care of yourself. But I just think that we're all so busy and living the rat race, like we just highlighted. Q4 is the best/worst example of what the rat race feels like to so many. And how can we bring light to challenging you to think about spending some time to focus on meditation and trying to find inner peace? And so we're going to be talking about in this episode why meditation is powerful. Brooke's going to talk a little bit about the neuroscience. I'm going to share some personal stories that I've had where I had a really challenging leader and I had some bad experiences where my mental health was out of whack and how that impacted me and how I overcame that. And then Brooke, I think we should both talk a little bit about goals we have in this space. Like, how can we meditate more? How can we hold each other accountable? And then, y'all, the next couple episodes I'm super excited about because Brooke and I, a big part of our brand together as, partners and co-hosts is, y'all, we're going to show up for you. And if that maybe means that at times we're going to be borderline too vulnerable or maybe share too much or maybe look a little foolish, we're down for you. And so we are literally both going to be hosting a guided meditation episode. Brooke's going to do one, I'm going to do one. And the goal is, if you've never meditated before, or if you have a lot and this is just another practice, we want to give you content that you can use to meditate on your meditation journey as you look to continue to strengthen your mental health.
I feel like for the longest time, I heard about meditation. In my mind, thinking about what meditation was or like what it looked like, I don't know, I had some vision of like a yogi sitting in like a yoga mat. Don't look at me like this. Just like very just very serene. I don't know. And I my mind goes a million miles an hour. I'm like, I'm gonna breathe. Like I'm already breathing all day long. I need to get stuff done. What's gonna help with my stress is to actually execute on the list that I have to do, not sit and like do this thing. So I've battled with this for a lot. My top strength is achiever. I want to execute and get things done. I've had to learn some really hard lessons of what it means to actually slow down, the importance of rest, how that impacts our nervous system, how that can actually increase our performance. It's not just the feel good, fluffy stuff. Like there is a whole science behind this. But I want to hear about you. Tell me about your experience and your kind of intro into meditation.
This holiday season, everyone is asking, what do I get them? But here's a better question. What do you get yourself? If you've been listening to Fraud to Fearless, you already know this truth. Even the most capable, driven people still wrestle with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and that quiet voice that asks, am I enough? That's exactly why we created the Fraud to Fearless Journal. This isn't just a notebook, it's a space to slow down, reflect, and design the version of you that's bold enough to believe that more is possible. It's for the dreamers, the builders, the people ready to stop waiting and start becoming. So whether you're gifting it to someone you love or finally giving yourself permission to grow, this journal is a reminder that fearless is not about having no fear. It's about facing it. Search for the Fearless Journal on Amazon today and start 2026 strong. Let's go, y'all. Back to the pod. Yeah. Your story, Brooke, reminded me, one of my good buddies, I met him as part of a church group that my wife and I are part of. We meet, it's a like 5 or 6 couples. We get together once a week and kind of talk about life and faith and everything. So he better be listening. But he at group last week, we were talking about parenting and uh, things we want to teach our kids. And we talked about this discipline, this balance between teaching discipline, but then also not pushing kids to do what we, the parents, want them to do, and have them have some agency on how they spend their life. And so my buddy, he's a dentist, so he's part of his own practice, and he wakes up every morning at like 4:45 and goes and does CrossFit. And I challenged him a little bit because I said, how are you going to navigate encouraging, your future kids to go to the gym? And he's like, because not everyone wants to wake up at 4:45 and go to the gym, bud. So like you want to teach discipline, but you also want your kids to have some agency, but you really need to lean on the discipline if you're going to set the alarm for 4:45 in the morning every day before work. And he's like, Hayden, over the years, I've just learned that waking up at 4:45 sucks. But if I don't work out, my day sucks. So just like he needs that workout. That workout is a part of him being successful throughout the day. And Brooke, that's what I think of meditation as like. If you do this right and you
Hmm.
learn to love the practice, it really is spiritual, magical, whatever you want to call it. But if you do it right and really like dive into being in tune with yourself. So it's funny, you think of yoga, I think of like Kung Fu Panda, like the little rat guy, the monkey, lemur, whatever, the guy that
Rat monkey.
teaches. I can't remember what animal he is. Normally, I'm really good with my animals. But he's the guy that teaches Po how to do kung fu. Um, and he just sits there and he's like, his legs are crossed and he's doing the finger thing and he's just saying
Yes.
inner peace, inner peace. And I think my journey with meditation really started with marriage. So my wife, she has experienced anxiety throughout her life and has really taught me, what that means and how to overcome that. And so I always have the essential oils, right? Big lavender on the work desk sort of guy. Um but she taught me yoga, she taught me essential oils, she taught me about breath work. Yoga, Brooke, is a game changer. I loved it. I haven't done it for a while just with Aubrey, but my wife and I did that a lot in COVID, and that is something that I would like to continue. But a quick story that I'll tell about where I really found like why this stuff is important is I had a really in a prior role, I had a very challenging leader that was really hard on me and was really difficult to support personally and professionally. And Brooke and I were very similar in our top 5 strengths. And it's funny, I've taken it a whole bunch of times, and normally achiever is right there at the top, and it's always been a top 5. So for me, no one can be harder on me than I am on myself. And so if I have a challenging leader that either doesn't give positive reinforcement, doesn't give praise, I don't know where I stand with them, then that eats at
Impacts
me.
you.
It eats at me, Brooke. And like, honestly, if I have a bad day at work, I'm not a great person in the evenings. And that is harder right now because my evenings from 5:30 to 7:30, and even after that, when that little rugrat goes to bed, it is a race. And I imagine yours is the exact same. I don't know how you do it. Um, but if I'm a bad person or like a mean person in the evenings, I miss so much. Like and so anyway, I had this really tough leader And Brooke, I never had this happen in my whole life, but I had a pretty bad panic attack. We weren't on the same page, and the leader was just giving me kind of negative vibes, negative energy. I just felt like I was a problem, and I had a panic attack, and it was really scary. Um,
What did that look like? What did that look like? Like when you say panic attack, I've experienced one panic attack in my life, but when people say I had a panic attack, I didn't even know what that was, like what it felt like until I experienced it. So I'm curious.
I don't think there's ever been a situation where physically Hayden wasn't in control anymore. There was only one time in my life that I've had that, and that was the panic attack where I was like, like breathing like this, and
Yeah.
like I wasn't running. My heart health is fine. I think like I work out, and I was just like, and Allie, my wife, she just like coached me through it. It was awesome. She's like, "All right, babe, you need to sit down. Like you're okay. You're safe. Breathe, breathe." And it like 5-10 minutes, I was just like breathing like that. It was really scary.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and that was a moment where I was like, all right, like we need to start working on um how can I overcome this? Like even if I have a really bad leader or like the fact that this is having an impact on my health is not okay. And so I want
Mm,
to mentally toughen up. And now I want to be careful with how I say that because I don't think the takeaway should be, oh, Hayden was weak mentally. No. I just think, how can I continue to exercise mental strength and mindfulness so that if I am in a situation like that, I know what's happening and I have tools that can overcome that, like meditation, like sitting in the sauna, like doing yoga. And so that I don't want to have that again, Brooke. It was hard and
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
scary and like yeah. So that is a big that's my why for why I want to meditate, why I want to do yoga, why I want to sit in the sauna because I've experienced a panic attack and uh I don't want to again.
Yeah. So after that experience, I mean, luckily Allie was there. She's coaching you through it. She's like, breathe, do all these things. You had this realization of, man, I've got a couple different things. First of all, this is having a huge impact on me. Things that are external, maybe things that are in my control or out of my control. That's something else to like dive into, right? But then what were your next steps? Because you said, okay, now I have these tools, but was it like the next day you're like, I'm gonna start doing meditation? Like, or what? How did you get into it? What did you?
Yeah, it was a whole bunch of things. So, one, my sister actually bought me a salt lamp. Do you know what those are? Like have you
Yes,
heard
like
of
a
those?
Himalayan salt lamp, like the pink. Are they like the pink ones?
Yeah, it's pink. It's a kind of it's like it's a pink
Those
orange.
are
It's
so.
a
Those are. Oh, sorry. Am I?
No, no, no. I'm
The
a girl
pink
dad now,
orange.
so I am pro pink. I have to be, but it really is more of an orange, but which is
Oh
my least
gosh.
favorite color. So we'll call it a salmon. It's a faded salmon pink. Um
Those are
but
actually really nice. Those like they give like a
yeah.
really nice vibe.
I did lick it once. It is quite salty cuz it's just
Did
this big
not.
salt. I did. I really did. Um but my sister, bless her heart, like we talked about the panic attack experience and so she bought me a salt lamp that sat on my work desk. It's right behind me or right in front of me over here right now. So just having that I think is a calming presence. Uh, Effective immediately after that panic attack, I always carry lavender essential oil with me. So just that the smell just helps calm me down. And if I feel super stressed, a little bit like on your wrist or like the back of your neck. And then every night when I go to bed, I always do two drops on my chest and then one on each side of the pillow. Uh, so that
It's
is,
it's so interesting how that smell really is so calming. I remember I
yeah.
found an essential oil that was called Serenity or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just like a really great marketing technique, the name itself, but I thought, ah, I want serenity. That sounds so good. So yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
Essential oils. And then my wife and I started researching about what are ways that we can continue to strengthen mental health, and what are ways that we can, meditate more. We started doing yoga, and then we actually ended up buying a sauna for our house. So I've got a sauna upstairs. It can sit two people comfortably. Three is a tight squeeze. But Brooke, just have you saunaed before? Like, do you do it often?
So we have a wet sauna that's like well, it's I don't know if we can call it a wet sauna. It's like a shower steamer.
Okay.
And so it gets up to I can't remember how many degrees, and like there's a bench in the shower. It's super nice. Um but like I've gone to like the fancy places here once or twice where you go and sit and it's nice. Like I can't imagine having one in my house. That's cool. You'll have
It's
to like
nice.
include some pictures or something.
Yeah, it's really nice. Clear Light is the company that my wife does all the research. I've said on previous episodes, but in our marriage, she's the chief procurement officer, so she does the buying of the stuff and the researching of the stuff. Um, but the sauna was so helpful, and I think it's helped. I haven't had a panic attack since, and I think I have tools to overcome stressful situations, right? And work is always going to peaks and valleys from a stress perspective. But I also think, Brooke, that the panic attack really helped me understand just recognition when I am really stressed. So if I have had a really stressful week at work, all right, I need to go get a sauna session in. All right, I need to go get a workout in. All right, I need to go meditate for 20 minutes. And I think what I'm grateful for in that experience is I imagine a lot of people think of a pot, and stress and anxiety and difficult things just keep getting filled in, and eventually we overflow. Enter panic attack, enter something goes really bad, enter something that makes you need to change your behavior. How can you recognize when you start to get to that tipping point before, and then how can you bring that layer down a little bit so that we don't overflow? And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I learned from that experience, that if I'm in a place where I'm not doing all right, I need to get proactive and start to play offense to counter that stress instead of just letting it keep eating at me.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. Okay. So this is very interesting. And I think it's so important because as you're saying that, I'm picturing my Instant Pot, right? It has like the little dial where the steam can come out. Um, do we even know what the dial is? Is the dial switched on? How do we turn on the dial so that the pressure and the steam can be released when we feel like there's no options, there's nowhere to go? Hayden, just completed a certification for a coaching certification a few months
Nice.
ago. And it was all about understanding saboteurs in our lives. And we've talked about this a little bit in previous episodes, but there was a study done at Stanford, and then it's been, replicated across the biggest schools about this specific thing on how are we impacted from a mental health perspective. And when things get hard in our life, we have these moments of sabotage, whether there's so much pressure that we just shut down, we avoid altogether, or it shows up as a panic attack, or it shows up as like perfectionism that like holds us, it shows up as fear. There's so many ways that this stress and pressure shows up in our life. And so how do we get rid of that? Or how do we mitigate it or understand it? And one of the things that this program teaches is something called a PQ rep. And essentially what this is, it stands for positive quotient, like emotional intelligence, but it's the negative thoughts that come into our mind. So I'm curious, when you had your panic attack, if you went back to that moment and you thought, like, what were the things that were going through your head? I think about what was going through my head when I had a panic attack. I was like, I don't know, a teenager, barely a teenager. I was babysitting for some family and
Okay.
they never came back. Like they eventually came back, but like they said that they were going to come back after
I was like,
after
oh my gosh, Brooke, you baby, you still have the kids with you today.
No, they said they were like they were doing some overnighter thing. They said that they would be back at like 9 a.m. in the morning, and then they just like never came. And it was crazy. Like
Wow.
I got so, and so I remember though the mental chatter that was in my mind of like, what was I telling myself? What were the thoughts that were going through? And a lot of it was like negative talk, right? Just like worst case scenario, blah, blah, blah. And so in this study, they talk about how that negative chatter that goes on in our mind, it's normal, but it's the logical part of our brain is the brain that manages this. And so when we're going to make decisions or we're going to do things, we're using one side of our brain only.
Hmm.
And the goal is to wake up the other side of our brain. This is the neuroscience piece, so we can make a whole brain decision. And this is what's crazy. It did not connect the dots for me with meditation until I heard this. But in what meditation does, it's not just about breathing and just focusing on your breath, because I'm like, this is so boring. Like, why am I just focusing on my breath? When you're able to shut off all thoughts and focus on something like your breathing or a sensation, for example, if you take your fingertips and you just rub your fingertips together, you feel the ridges on your fingertips, or, you touch your pants, you feel the texture of the clothing, and only focus on that, that wakes up the right side of your brain. And as you wake up the right side of your brain, even after a few moments, now I'm firing on both sides. I'm going to be able to
Hmm.
make better decisions. I'm going to be able to change my mindset. It's just incredible what that can do. So there's so many aspects to meditation. It's not just like, as I honestly, I don't feel more peaceful if I'm just counting my breaths, but that distinction, Hayden, of what it's actually doing in the mind helped me understand why it's important.
Powerful. We so Brooke did a first solo episode talking about fear, probably like 6 or 7 episodes previously at this point, and I edited it. And it was a great experience for me because I wasn't there, which was unique for us. And that, but also I got to edit the exercise. And I, I told Brooke this later, but I just, not only did I thoroughly enjoy the episode, but I also learned like so much. And one of the things, Brooke, that I learned was you talked about the neuroscience that when I'm thinking something, my brain doesn't know if it's real or if it's fake. And one thing that as I go through the rat race, I have noticed lately just the lack of discipline in what I think about. And there are some things that I think about and it's just useless, just not, I shouldn't enable my brain to think about just fluff, you know? But sometimes it happens. And I had an interesting experience the other day that so I live in Charlotte and we're in like peak fall colors. And I imagine everyone is going to relate with this story because I have not met a person yet who enjoys commuting, who loves being in the car and it's taking forever because of traffic.
Unless you're listening to a good podcast. That's what
Unless you're
makes it.
listening, take us with you every day on your podcast. We'll make it better. That's the Fraud to Fearless promise. So I'm in the car and I'm just grumpy thinking about traffic, Brooke, and I'm just sitting there looking at the time, not go anywhere. There was a moment I was a mile from my house and it said 10 minutes left. There was like some accident and construction, and I was like, I could literally probably even speed walk faster than that. Definitely could run faster than this. And it's just like, how frustrating. And then I was like, I saw this tree and I was looking at how beautiful the leaves were, and I was like, okay, we're in a grumpy zone right now. Let's get out of it. I've got 10 minutes left in this car. There's nothing else I can do to change this. And this tree is so beautiful. Like, let me drive safe, but let me enjoy the beauty of the place that I live and the season that we're in, kind of like the fingertip thing. Like I'm just
Hmm.
focusing on the grooves of my fingertip. When you're driving, look at the beauty of the houses that you're driving by, or nature, or if you're in Utah, my goodness, guys, I don't have mountains out here. Enjoy the beauty of the mountains. And I just think that that is just such a helpful exercise that if you don't practice it, then you just get stuck in the grumpy zone and you're always going to be mad about traffic. It's going to happen either way. So find tools to overcome that and take us with you on your morning and afternoon commutes.
Hayden, I love it so much because that is a visual mental rep for meditation. And it's interesting how often we don't pay attention to even the details. I mean, if you look at your hand right now, you just actually look at it and you look at, I mean, we're using the fingertip example again, but the actual ridges and the lines in your hand. And you look at, if you're looking at your palm or if you look at the top of your hand, the little, if you have freckles or maybe a scar or whatever, like how often is it that we actually examine things and take it in and how that opens up? You can do this visually, you can do this through sensation, you can do this while you're eating food, like the experience of eating. This is something that you can incorporate into all aspects. It's incredible. Um, I want to tell you one example of meditation. This is a quick way to test what your mental, well, how should we say this? What your mental strength capacity for meditation is. I don't know what the good term is. This is the measure of it, okay? And I have absolutely failed at this test so many times. But if you fail at this test, it's great because then it tells you, okay, there's some room for me to improve and I can exercise this muscle, right? So, the meditation, one of the first few meditations that I did to help me realize where I was at was something that's called a, I'm going to call it naming your thoughts meditation.
Yeah.
And so you try to just focus on your breath and not think about anything else. But as your mind wanders, as it does, then your one goal is just to write down what it thinks of and then come back to your breath. And as it wanders and more thoughts come up, just like follow that thought and then come back to your breath and just keep on doing that. Set a timer. You could even do this for 5 minutes. Okay. So I did this exercise. I should pull up
I'd love
my
to see it.
huge, like half of a page for 5 minutes. It was like, I'd breathe and then it would be like kids, Nike shoes, because I thought about how Dax needed new shoes. And then I thought that led to returns that I had to make at Amazon. And like it went like 10 deep. And then I was like, okay, breathe. And then it was like dinner, grocery list, gotta clean out the fridge and like the path. Like, and it was just, I realized from the exercise all these random things that went from one thing to something that was not even seemingly related. My
Mm-hmm.
brain does not shut off. Like
Nope.
it's literally just going and going and going. And so realizing, okay, this is a lot. This actually fosters so much stress. Let's work to strengthen that piece where I can just turn that part off. And the fact that I have the power to actually turn off that noise. I'm not good at it yet, but how that impacts my life. So this is a really good exercise that I would challenge everybody listening. Get your Fraud to Fearless journal, open up one of the pages, set a timer for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whichever one, start low, and see, okay, what's my mental endurance on this? And it's okay. You observe it with no judgment. It just gives you a benchmark of where to start.
Yeah. Imposter to empowered in work, life, and relationships. That's the goal. That's why we're here. That's the North Star that we're shooting for. And we haven't talked a ton about relationships, but Brooke, one practice that my wife and I have done throughout our marriage is I've never called it this before, but I've called it the grumpy zone a couple times. So just think about that feeling when you're in traffic, right? Or think about that was a super practical example, Brooke, of I need to make dinner, which means I need groceries, which means the kitchen needs to be clean, which means the dishes need to be put away. Like this is how our minds, unless harnessed, unless controlled, unless trained, it is so easy to fall into that trap. And then we're living in the grumpy zone. So my wife and I, when one of us is in the grumpy zone, um, we just do such a simple practice. It's just 3 deep breaths. So we identify and then say in a safe space to tell the other person, hey, you're in the grumpy zone right now. And then we just go, we take turns. One of us says 1, and then we go, and then the next person says 2, and then we go, and then whoever started says 3, and we go. Again, when we had Charlotte Grimmel on our podcast, I listened to it, obviously edited and then listened to it. And one of the biggest things that I missed when we were interviewing her, Brooke, was she said, sometimes the answer is simple, but the application is what's complex. And that is so helpful for someone that works in HR or has their own business, is that sometimes we think the answer needs to be magic. But it's not. Sometimes it's just as simple as taking 3 deep breaths. It's amazing how much better you feel after you do that. I have one more story, and then let's hold each other accountable and then close. So Brooke and I met in grad school, and in the first year, in our second semester, we took an international trip. And we went to London, one of my favorite cities in the world. And then we went to Madrid, Spain, which as a guy who grew up as a Barcelona fan, that was kind of like going to Austin, Texas, as I'm wearing my
Oh
Oklahoma
my
polo.
gosh.
But Brooke is a big Real Madrid fan, and Madrid was a beautiful city, and I loved Spain so much. It was my first time in Spain. But Brooke, we didn't know this when we were there, and so I'm going to quiz you a little bit. Do you know what La Paseo means? Do you know why
Well, La
that is
Paseo,
relevant? Yeah.
why that's irrelevant to this? Well, I could guess.
Yeah. What do you
Um,
think La Paseo is and how it's related to Spain?
well, this sounds like a pathway, like
Hmm.
a way to go, right?
You're super close. So I am obsessed with studying and learning about cultures from other parts of the world. And Brooke, you and I did this when we were in Spain, and I think we observed it, but we didn't understand what we were seeing. La Paseo is a very famous Spanish tradition that after dinner, families take a walk. And like if you Google La Paseo, you're going to see just like all this articles and commentary and stuff. It's just a super famous tradition. And I think it's funny living in the US, we see like Spain and Italians and Greece. We're like, how are they all in good shape? Well, they walk, they move, like they take care of themselves, they eat healthy, they meditate, they practice mental health. And in my opinion, La Paseo is a beautiful, simple tradition. I want to do it with me and Allie and Aubrey and the dogs. Go eat dinner. It's hard because the sun's going down pretty quick and it's starting to get cold here. But what could La Paseo mean for you? Even if you did it once a week, eat dinner, or maybe if you can sneak in a pre-dinner walk, take a lap of the neighborhood, of the cul-de-sac, take a lap and reflect on the day, move a little bit. I think it is a great challenge that is so simple and it's free. It's only your choice. Anyone can go take a walk. And I just think, Brooke, we would see after dinner just there were so many people on the street walking around. They were doing La Paseo. It's just a beautiful tradition that I think can help as part of your meditation, mental health strengthening journeys.
Love it, Hayden. This is so good. We've had some good takeaways. I love the thing that you said. The answer is simple, the application can be complex. So just let's make it as simple as possible. There's so many options out there. You might not know where to start. Don't stress about, don't think this is one more thing I have to do. But if you're feeling in the moment, just sit down, take 3 deep breaths. You can start there.
All right, Brooke. So we've listed a whole bunch of examples, a little bit of global flair, a little bit of work life and relationships. What's one thing you want to do to either meditate more from a mental health strengthening perspective? Give us one thing you want to do in the next couple weeks.
You know, I want to slow down. I want to this mental chatter of like go 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 get it, go get it. I want to really learn how to turn that piece off and slow down and surrender. Not in a like I give up kind of a way, but like I'm experiencing my life intentionally through some of the things we've talked about. So maybe for like the next week when I wake up, I'm going to consciously do something that helps me with that. When I get out of bed, instead of the go, 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 something that just helps me slow down, feel grounded, feel at peace.
Love it. I want to implement in our family La Paseo. I think it's a great tradition. And we got Thanksgiving coming up. So I plan on inspiring all of Allie's family who will be here to do La Paseo after we eat a whole bunch of food. So I love that. And I really, my experience of driving and being in the grumpy zone in traffic and noticing that tree had a big impact on me. So when I'm in the car listening to Fraud to Fearless, I want to take in the beauty and not just be miserable on my commute. So those are 2 things I want to do. All right, Brooke, close us out.
Nice. Hope you guys enjoyed this start to Hayden, you're doing an ad. The start to the mini series of meditation. Can't wait for you to hear the meditations that we have for you. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. That's the pod.